Founder and original trainer at Louder Than 10. I'm really excited to be talking to all you folks because, when I started in digital project management, which now encompasses basically anything where you're moving work from one place to another and getting work done together, right? There were no tools, there were no platforms, there was no conversation or support happening for what we called our, these wonderful people who might be cat herders, right? We just did our best and we tried to get the work done and we were very unsupported. So Louder Than 10 was kind of born out of this idea that, like, what would project management look like if we could come together as a community and support training for people who are at work in their jobs through live training. And the live training is going to tackle things like, how do you push back when you see the project going off the rails or a bad direction where you ethically can't stand behind it? How do you create alignment when people are having conversations that mean you see obvious risk and you can turn that into something that can work out for everybody? So we just very much support ethical project management and what you mentioned too, Elaine, just talking about democracy at work. And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. I'm very, very happy to be working at Louder Than 10. I think you're just on mute there.
I'm on mute. I know that a lot of people currently sit in roles that are project management adjacent, where they have a hold in the process. They may be the point person. They may be in an admin role or a high functioning role, where they're part of the process. They may be kind of running point, but they're not officially given that title of project manager. Do you think that anyone and everyone can be a project manager? Do you think that there are certain skills that people should kind of hone in on? What's your gut reaction to that?
Yeah, I think that I don't think that everyone should be a project manager. I think that when it comes down to it, if you're a naturally curious person, if you're a candid person, if you're a person who loves people and process, and if you're a person who likes to show up in the middle of a problem, the thick of a problem, and see chaos around you and know intuitively that there's a way that you can create order in that chaos by working with other people, then you should be a project manager. I think the biggest misconception is, and kind of an older definition of what project management was all about, was that people who are really good at just getting work organized and being organized, that's who should be PMs. And I think that definition is actually being stripped away and being replaced. It's very much about emotional intelligence, empathy. It's about knowing how to communicate in a very generative way, in a collaborative way. And it's about setting very clear boundaries about healthy workplace practices. Again, I can't stress that enough, right? We work in a world where we've created systems that just aren't sustainable for us as humans. So so not everyone should, but anyone who wants to in that light and is curious and passionate about people and process, I think they make a great PM.
What about alternatively? What if you have no experience in project management, but you think that you would be good at it? Or you're just very interested in it, right? Because I feel like project managers have been officially project managers for a long time, or, this title has become, I think, more robust and more front and center in the last few years. How would you recommend someone get into project management if they have had no prior experience?
Yeah, so you mentioned the role adjacent, and I mean, most and many of our students come from writing backgrounds, design backgrounds, development and engineering backgrounds. We have people who are teachers and baristas and all kinds of different history. And so the thing, again, that kind of unites them is this affinity for process. So in terms of getting into it, say you're a designer and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm pretty good at setting up meetings and I'm pretty good at having communication. If you kind of feel like in a remote environment, you have an affinity for checking in to see how people are doing and also trying to move barriers out of the way, you can actually start playing a more active role in those activities. You can ask for more responsibilities in setting up meetings, in helping to coordinate and gather up requirements for projects, in running workshops, for example, if you feel like you just want to try on your facilitator hat. All those tiny little actions help you to get the practice that you need in creating a future path to become a project manager. So those are sort of the non-formal ways of doing it. And then of course, if you just do that, and I'd say like 80 to 90% of PMs kind of tend to fall into the role, and then they realize, oh, this is like kind of hard and I should probably get some support and training. At that point, it's really smart for them to be thinking about getting some sort of formal support so they can unlearn some of the bad habits that they pick up in the trenches.
So in the world of certifications and training, and like you're saying, kind of more formal education, there is, PMP or project management.
Institute, yeah.
There's, like Scrum, there's Agile, there's all of these things. And then there's, of course, Louder Than 10, where people can get the training. Kind of tell me how that differentiates from those other programs and what your thoughts are on people having to have a certification. Is that necessary? Is it helpful in the job market?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll say just very briefly, so PMI tends to be a little bit more of the traditional body of project management. If you are interested in, say, working in like primary industries or in enterprise, that's great. You should definitely consider it. It can help with salary and compensation. It's very much about like rote memorization of the content and curriculum, and then you take like an exam and then you get recertified every year. And so I have met folks who are like, yeah, it was good. I just still don't know how to quote do project management because I wasn't actually practicing anything. I was just learning for the test. So some frameworks like that, they maybe don't work as well for people. Things like Agile and Scrum highly support getting those additional certifications because they will make you better at project management. They are going to be sort of focused on methods and approaches or frameworks. And then when you kind of compare that to Louder Than 10, we're an immersive live training experience where you're going to get basically touch on all of those components that you might learn in Agile and Scrum, but also the depth of understanding how risk analysis works and knowing what to say if someone asks you to do a difficult thing, knowing how to apply this on your own specific projects with the support of a trainer who you can book and talk to one-on-one. So it's a little bit different format, and ours is not like, here, write an exam and then you'll know everything about PM. It's learn the work and practice it, and then show us what you did and let's talk about it and dig into the deeper processes that you want to know more about.
So it's like the difference of, taking your driver's test or, studying for the manual versus like actually getting in the car and driving, right?
Yes.
Because it's really great to have all of these answers in this perfect world when the scenario unfolds itself the way it does in the handbook. But 95% of the time, you have people's feelings, you have personal situations, you have communication styles. So what I'm hearing from you is Louder Than 10 gives you the opportunity to actually articulate and practice having those conversations, because let's just admit it, right? Like being able to say it once and say it several times is much different than filling out the bubble.
Yes, you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. We'll put you right behind the wheel and we'll be right there to help you drive.
Awesome. I want to give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have, but also understand that, my commitment to everyone is that it is 10 minutes. So what about, how can people find you? Obviously you have a website and a LinkedIn. Is that your preferred mode of communication?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say come find us at louderthan10.com, and you can reach me. Happy to share my email with you folks, and at rachel@louderthan10.com. And yeah, we're pretty active on the Twitter and stuff like that. So come find us there. We just love conversations. We have a very active community, and honestly, like today in lab, we were just deconstructing basically the role of Gantt charts in modern business practice as it kind of instituted enslavement practices. So yeah, like we get into the weeds in classes, and we don't just talk about surface stuff. We very much want to kind of dismantle existing systems of colonization and power, and reset that so that it's an inclusive environment for everyone.
One last question, Rachel.
Sure.
If someone is on the fence they think that they have the skills, they think they have the experience, they think that they want to proceed, but they're unsure. Would you be open to having a conversation with anybody who's thinking about going down this path?
100%. Yeah, come find me. I have so much to share about how I landed here, what I wished I had gotten, where you can go to get support. There's so many communities out there. If you Google Vancouver Digital Project Managers Group, that's an online group you can join. Twin Cities Interactive Project Management's another group you can join. Kick-Ass PM in Austin's another group you can join. Find all the groups. These are your people. They get you. We get you. So do it.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, I think so much of the time, knowing what you're getting into and, finding out that you don't like the day to day is half the battle.
You're right.
Right.
It's totally half the battle.
Awesome. Rachel, I appreciate your time so much. And thank you to everyone that tuned in for today's 10 minutes with 52. You know how to find Rachel, you know how to find us. So thank you so much for your time and enjoy that wonderful sunshine out there.
Me too. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.